Hi, I'm Matt Bubala here with another Fountain Report conversation. Very excited to be joined this week by Dr. Chris Pachel. He is the owner of Animal Behavior Clinic in Portland, Oregon. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me on, Matt. I appreciate that.
You mentioned can't do. Can it sometimes be, I'm not willing to do that anymore. 20 years ago, I killed myself to start this.
Yes.
I wouldn't do that again. I would delegate. I would find the right people.
Yes.
And I think that leads to a little bit of a conversation, a generational conversation. As you and I are getting older and we hear more and more about millennials or Gen Z or whoever's coming along next, and they don't work and they don't this and they don't that. Yeah. And I hear a lot of my Gen X friends complaining about that in their workplace. And I'm sure that's valid in some ways. And then it's like, well, what if they're right, though? What
Totally.
if we are all in therapy because we just did all that forever? And when they're like, no, I'm not doing that, we step back and go, huh.
Yeah.
Maybe that's also an answer. How do you handle that with younger workers and everybody that you're dealing with?
I love that question. We've definitely had that, that conversation in multiple practices. What does that look like to hire for the roles that we're trying to fill and all of that? And I love that question. What if they're actually right? What if the interpretation is not that they don't want to work or they're not willing to work hard, but the priorities are different? And I love when I've been able to ask some of my younger employees, what speaks to you? They have different answers than I do. And so what I love being able to do as an employer to the best of my ability is to be able to actually meet their needs. And I'm in the world of behavior. We leverage reinforcers. That's what we do as motivators of behavior. If I can't do that as a business owner, I got more to cover in therapy. That's the answer there as well. But no, I love being able to really think about that for those individuals. And they do have a different approach. They grew up at a different time period. They're seeing life through a different lens. And I kind of at least try to lean into that and say, well, what do I have to learn from you, from your lens? And what do I have to teach? It's a two-way conversation. And what can we do together that neither of us would be able to do independently?
You bought into an existing clinic.
Yes.
What was the takeaway from that? Because now you started something from scratch, but now you're going into a clinic that's already there. I imagine you worked there for a while, before a year, I believe you said, before you bought and
Correct.
took over. So for a year, you got acclimated, but also I'm sure said, there's things here, of course, anywhere we work, we want to change.
Yes.
How is the balance of that versus starting from scratch, getting to do it however Dr. Chris Pachel wanted to, now I've got a bunch of workers, I already have a bunch of clients, I have to sort of figure out how I'm making these changes?
It was an interesting sort of inroad in that, I think when I go back to starting it out from the beginning, I didn't know what I wanted, so I was winging it. Having done that for 5 or 6 years, and again, I would have been, 35 at that point in time. So me in my early 30s was driven a lot more by ego. I know what I'm doing now, and sort of bringing that into the conversation. And now I'm going to be able to take over this other practice and I'm going to do it the way that we should do it. And the reality was, I learned some lessons in one practice that didn't actually work in the new practice when I took it over. And so to me, it was a matter of trying to remain flexible. And I didn't do a terribly good job in the early days. But to ask the question, what experience do I have that will be useful here? What's already in play that's actually working? And even though it's different, it's not bad or better for that matter. It's just different. And is there a hybrid here that'll allow for the knowledge and the lessons learned from the existing practice and my input to kind of take us into a next chapter that's more of a hybrid or a meld of those things? And I think that's something that I've carried through even since then is, rather than thinking about something as this is the right way or the wrong way or the better way, or it's just different. What do I gain? What do I lose? And even, thinking about some of these ideas, every time we make a change or invest ourselves in one area, there's an opportunity cost to what we're then unavailable to do. And that applies to the ownership piece as well as boundaries around work hours and all of those things. And I'm trying to be more mindful of that now in sort of this chapter, this decade of my life. And well, we'll see. We'll see where it takes us.
Dr. Chris Pachel from Animal Behavior Clinics in Portland, thank you so much for being with us as always.
Thanks for having me.
All right, that's another Fountain Report conversation. I'm Matt Bubala. We'll see you next time.